Grab a seat, feeling great. This is meant to be a serious financial seminar. What's going on?
This is serious.
Raise your hand, make some noise if you're excited about what you're about to learn. Well, you don't even know what you're about to learn, but you're excited anyhow. So, it's great to be back with you today. I'm excited about what we're going to share with you today. Obviously, you had a chance to hear from my good friend Tony. Did you enjoy Tony? He's a remarkable individual and very inspiring, and I love having him here at 21st Century to share his story. This session is a very powerful session. We're going to talk about a couple of things. To start off this morning, I'm going to teach you, if you wish, if we've got time, how to go about creating a millionaire's lifestyle inside the next 12 months, say, without you even needing to become a millionaire. Would that be of interest to anyone in the room? Should we skip over that topic, or you want me to cover that? You want me to cover that? Okay, so I'll go into that shortly. I'm also, as I promised yesterday, we're going to talk about this program is not just about the science of achievement, teaching you the strategies to achieve more. You're going to learn a lot of strategies starting after lunch today. Obviously, we're going to go into copious amounts, at least half a dozen share strategies, in particular some cash flow strategies such as renting shares and selling insurance, 8 ways to get started. I'm going to give you a global economic update of, I believe, what is happening and what's likely to happen in the world and how, as an investor, you can take advantage of that. And obviously tomorrow, plus tonight, but also tomorrow is strategy day. You're going to get like at least half a dozen different strategies that you can apply to achieve your goals. But part of this program is also about teaching you about the art of fulfillment. Because we don't just want to be rich, is that true? We want to be rich and what? Rich and happy. And so ultimately being happier increases your chances of being richer. And we're not just talking rich materially, we're talking rich in spirit, rich in emotions, and rich in your life. So what we're going to look at is what is a key, formula or an understanding of the psychology of humans. What do you need to be able to be fulfilled? And we're going to dissect that and go through something I learned off my friend and mentor many years ago. One of my mentors is Anthony Robbins, and he identified these particular human needs. And I'm going to share those with you, and some of you are familiar. I talk about these on my Homestudy, but it's going to give you the chance to understand we all meet these needs in some way. We're going to look at how can we meet these needs at a higher level. And it's going to give you the chance to be a practical psychologist. In other words, you'll be able to look at your own life and say, well, if I want to be more fulfilled, understanding this, the needs that we all have, we can then look at it and go, well, if I change this in my life, I meet my need here at a higher level, then obviously I'm going to be happier. I'm going to be more fulfilled. And I think that is a much greater gift than teaching you how to make $1 million. That makes sense? You're going to learn both, but I certainly want you to get this because I don't want you to end up in what is an epidemic in this country, and you jot this down, is what we call a poor rich man or poor rich woman. I can remember many years ago, and I've shared this story before, but one of my dreams many years ago, because I grew up on a farm in northern New South Wales in a town called Glen Innes. Who's familiar with where Glen Innes is? If you drive to Sydney from Brisbane, you would drive through there on the New England Highway. Beautiful place to grow up, and I fly back there every 2 months. I'm a big believer in spending a lot of time with your parents while they're alive and your family, etc. Many people get so busy in their lives, they neglect the people that matter most, and I never ever wanted to be like that. And so many years ago, I set about as a goal was to invest into rural farms and the rural industry, because I'm also aware that I believe it will be farmers in the future driving Lamborghinis, not stockbrokers, effectively, because the Asian food crisis is more about planning than it is about money. And I'll explain what I mean by that in a moment. We'll go through the roof, and you've really started to do that. So as an investor, it was a very smart strategy, but also because I had a goal to help out my brothers, and I bought out all the neighbouring farms around where I grew up. And one of the farms that I bought was off this particular gentleman. The deal was done through an agent, but this gentleman was about 86 years of age, and he would have been probably worth between $5 and $8 million. So for most people, that's fairly well off. However, he's from the old school, and his wife, in our past generation, especially say our grandparents' generation, women had no say in the money. If you remember back those generations, men controlled the money, men made the money, and women in those days generally didn't have access to any money. So this is a good example of what I call a poor rich man. is that, and his wife was a very generous person, and she used to be a nurse, so she would volunteer her time nursing. So she would fly to Sydney, which is like a 6.5-hour drive away, but she'd fly to Sydney to volunteer and help out with nursing. He would not pay for her airfares because he was like old school and very tight with money, even though he's worth probably $8 million. So she would be able to get down there on frequent flyer points off her son. And so he wouldn't pay for her stay in a hotel, even though she's volunteering her time to help people. She would sleep on a couch near the pool and gymnasium where she worked out. Some people say, well, in this case, he didn't have a very healthy relationship with money. Even though he was rich, he would behave like a poor person. Some people in the room might say, well, he didn't have a very healthy relationship with his wife either. But my point is that a lot of Australians, if they do accumulate wealth, they become asset rich and cash poor. But often my dad's a classic case of this. Even though he became technically on paper a millionaire by buying farm, and over time it grew in value beyond $1 million, is that they're so ingrained of saving money, not spending, for 30, 40, 50 years of their life, they never can adjust to relaxing, actually spending money. So in life, we have to be balanced. Because there's no point accumulating wealth and hoarding it. There's a lot of hoarders in society. Out of fear, they accumulate wealth and they stash it aside and never enjoy it. Now, I know some people in this room don't have that challenge. You're going, Jamie, that's not my problem. Okay? I'm not a hoarder. Okay? I take the money and I hoard something else, like shoes and dresses and rings and things like that. Does that make sense? So there is a balance. See, my psychology around money partly was obviously influenced by my parents. My dad, very tight with money, saves, doesn't spend hardly anything. My mum, complete opposite. My dad would pay off the credit cards, my mum would fill them back up again, okay? Constant conflict, okay? But out of that, I got a balance to say, you know what? I want to be a good saver and have a financial future and become an investor, but I also want to enjoy life. There is no point, jot this down, the end result of what my goal is and what I think any goal should be financially is to help you create a lifestyle. Does that make sense? The end result is lifestyle. That doesn't mean the end result is just copious amounts of money that you hoard aside and have ego satisfaction to say you're better than anyone else. I mean, that's really irrelevant. It's all about generating a lifestyle. So what I'm going to teach you in just a moment is how do we go direct to getting that? How do we go straight to the end result as quickly as possible? Because sure, this weekend you're going to learn financial strategy where you're going to learn how to have your money work for you. There's only a few ways to make money. One, jot this down, is have your money work for you, i.e. be an investor, and obviously that's what you're focused on, and some of you already are investors. The other way is, we don't teach in this program, but I teach it in my business academy program, which some of you may want to come to at some point, and that's where you learn how to have, the other way to make money is to have people at work for you, i.e. through business or through leverage. Like Richard Branson has 60,000 employees around the world. So he has a lot of people at work, and that generates him wealth as well, okay? So you even have the skill set as an investor and an entrepreneur, you'll be even wealthier. And that's what I've had to develop over the years. So what we're going to look at is how do we go about getting that result. And what I like about this strategy is that, who's familiar with Tim Ferriss? Some of you had a chance to hear Tim when we had him out last month in Melbourne. And Tim is a great example of this, some of these things that we teach, and he has some great lessons on how to go about getting the lifestyle directly and focusing on that. The concept of a 4-hour work week and things like that. So I'll touch on that as well, because when I read that book, it was really resonated with the things that I've been teaching for many years about the things that I did to have what I call, jot this down, a time-rich lifestyle. Because I know of people that are in this country, and I have people, even my peer network, that have become very wealthy, hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars worth, but still didn't have the lifestyle that they could have. Some people get deluded that lifestyle is about money, which is not the case. Jot this down. Quality of life and having a lifestyle is more about planning than it is about money. And I'll explain what I mean by that in a moment. And you've really got to get this. Otherwise, you're going to climb this ladder, and you get to the top of the ladder, and it's leaning against the wrong wall. And I'll show you what I mean by that. And you're going to spend 10, 20 years climbing that ladder, and then you'll figure that out. When I'm going to show you in a moment how you can go up another ladder that within 6 or 12 months, I would say 60 to 70% of you in this room could achieve the end result you want. That is lifestyle. That's where you have the freedom to do what you want without even having to become an investor. You'll say, Jamie, why am I here to learn how to be an investor? Well, you're going to have those tools too. However, I'm going to give you something else where you can go straight to lifestyle. And exactly what I did. I had a great lifestyle even before I became a self-made millionaire because I used these strategies. And it has a lot to do with taking charge of your time. Okay? Money has time value. Okay? If you get your money where you have to sell your time, it has limited value. But if you get your money where you don't have to sell your time for it, that has 10 times the value to you. And that's really what life is about. Because life is short, so you want to get the most out of that. So before we go into that, I just want to take a moment for you to really jot down or like to at least get an idea of what's the 5 best things you've learned so far in this program. In particular, yesterday, you might want to review that. I want you to take a moment now and jot down what's the 5 best things you've learned and at least 5 action steps. Just check that you've got at least 5 action steps you've committed to doing. For some of you, there's some small changes you would have noticed yesterday. Some of you have some large changes to make in your life. But everyone in this room by now should at least have identified some changes that you can make in your life. Is it true? And some of you might have pages of changes. So to quickly do that, then I want you to turn to your buddy and share with them what's at least 2 or 3 best things you've learnt and action steps. And then we're going to take a moment to hear from some people what's some of the best things that you've learnt yesterday and today. Go for it quickly, 2 minutes. So at least 5 best things you've learned and 5 action steps, and share with your buddy. Okay, class, hands in the air. Hands in the air to the side, big moan. Other side, big moan. Leaning back, making money moan. Leaning forward, getting excited about making money moan. Okay, let's hear from a couple of people. Teams will win pints for this. I just want to hear from a few people who want to share what's some of your best things you've learned so far and some of your action steps you'll be taking. Which teams really want to share? Let's go back row here. Give me a big hand. Come on, a huge hand.
The thing we did yesterday where you said try and smile your hardest and see if you can be sad. Well like that, because you couldn't.
Yeah, who else found that was interesting? Like, you know, depression is an example, an emotion is something we have to put ourselves in a certain physiology for it to happen. That's good. Give him a hand. Over here, we'll go over here quickly, yep. Which team? Team 10. Team 10? Yep, far away.
Just what you said yesterday when you first came on about how you reflect 5 things that to be positive about. And
that's
I
what
just
being
think,
grateful for you.
Yeah, your mindset is so important with everything. And if you can't be positive about things, you're really starting on the back foot. So I think that was really great.
Yeah. Who found that to be true? Who's found that to be true? Like, it's the daily rituals, it's your daily habits that determine your life's results. It's not just one day you go out and peak performance and change your life. It's what you do it habitually. Doesn't mean you have to be perfect. No one is. All you have to be is just that little bit better. Remember, like the golfer, $100,000 a year to $1 million a year, 1 shot per 18 holes better. Dramatically difference in your life. So if you can get yourself into state occasionally, you'll outperform everyone else. You'll do really well. If you get what do you do is like going to a gym. You go to the gym, you pump your muscles. If you condition yourself in emotionally, like this is like an emotional gym workout, put your environment like that consistently, then it becomes a natural part of who you are. You're naturally confident, you're naturally certain, you're naturally playful, outrageous, you're naturally creative. You tend to avoid being frustrated or angry. Those things will still come up. We're human. We're not turning our emotions off. We're not trying to numb them down. We recognize we are human, but we say, you know what? We can look at this in a different way and get back into a resourceful state. That's what you're talking about here. In your career, is it important to be in state? Yes or no? You've dealt with people that are out of state. They don't care. They couldn't be bothered. That's not what creates success. Passion. If you want to make a lot of money, have passion. Who else wanted to share? Okay, let's go over here with Leo.
Yeah, Leo.
Team 10 as well, yep.
Is the biggest thing I found was with the triad, where you had the physiology,
Yep.
the focus, and then the other language patterns. If you alter one, it affects the others.
Absolutely, yeah. That's good. Give Leo a hand. So you remember yesterday we talked about the triad, the three things that determine how you feel. One was the physiology, is that true? The fastest way to change your state is to change your physiology. And we notice that by just, like if you just have just a small shift in your facial expression, like from a neutral expression to a small smile, it's just a tiny physiological shift, but a completely different shift in your emotions. Does that make sense? And we looked at that yesterday when we couldn't get depressed with a smile on our face, because we can't get into the physiological pattern because we've interrupted that pattern by having a smile on our face. So we also talked about yesterday, remember, the idea of having a mini trampoline or exercise or doing things throughout the day to get yourself back into a more resourceful state, to tap into, the trampoline idea is very powerful if you want to solve a problem. Just bounce up and down on a trampoline because it's activating both your left and right hemispheres of your brain. It also oxygenates your blood. Very healthy for you, okay? Just don't do it with a low ceiling, okay? But just changing your state, going for a walk. We talked yesterday about meditation. Now, even if you're not comfortable, you don't like meditating or sitting quiet, go for a walk on the beach. It's a form of meditation. Okay, so it's all right for you, Jamie. You live near a beach. Okay, we'll go for a walk somewhere, fresh air. Isn't it amazing how when you're out in nature, the energy automatically changes the way that you feel? I mean, it's very hard to be depressed if you're walking in the sand, the beautiful sun, and the fresh air. You're alive. It brings you back. It re-energizes your soul. So we've got to, that's what we talked about yesterday as well. The key determinant long-term to creating change was what? Environment, remember? So if I'm going to give you the gift of long-term change, you're going to get a lot of tools to help you short-term as well that you've been learning, but simply going back and recognizing that, changing your environment. What can you do if you work from home to make your home office more empowering? What can you do with your desk to make it more tidy? Okay? Have a view. I often find always, not saying like over leverage yourself, but I always would make sure I had a nice, even when I was starting out, or building my businesses or building my incomes, is make sure I lived in a nice place, even if I was renting it. Because you want to have an empowering environment. Something also that will motivate you to earn more money so you can have the nicer things. Because what it does, it gives you an energy and an environment that uplifts you and you're excited about. If you live in an environment that is not good feng shui or it's not good energy, and it's going to affect your energy. If you go to an office that is sapping your energy, it's going to affect your energy. You need to do whatever you can to change that. Okay, if you hang around people that think nothing works, everything's a scam, the world's falling apart, don't do anything and live in fear, that is going to affect your energy. Is it true? Where the reverse of that, if you hang around more uplifted, motivated people, it makes things easy because when you're not totally in state, they can help you get back into state. You notice that? And they can help raise your standards until you become conditioned, emotionally conditioned to a stronger state. Then what you become as a leader, which many of you already are. Many of you would already have people in your circle of influence that are starting to follow you. Is it true? Because they know you're going somewhere, they know you're confident about something, and they want to know. They want to come on the journey too. Where others, as I said yesterday, are hoping that you fall flat on your face. Why? Because it makes them feel more comfortable. Because you stepping above the crowd and doing more with your life makes some people uncomfortable. Because deep down they know that they had the guts to face their fears, get out and have a go of their life. They could too do that as well, but they don't. So secretly they're hoping you fail. Not because they're bad people, it's just the way human psychology is. Keeping up with the Joneses. Okay? And that's why most people that want to play small always hang around people that they're doing better than. That's not the way to play the game. Always put yourself in an environment when you're hanging around people who are doing better. And I'll talk about that on Monday. I'll teach you the B&S strategy if you haven't learned enough strategies by then. But one of the things that I did to improve my financial, even after I become a multimillionaire, was saying, okay, if I want to play the game at a higher level, I should surround myself and hang out with some billionaires. So that's all right for you, Jamie. You know people that are billionaires. But at the time, I didn't. 6 or 7 years ago, I had never met a billionaire in my life personally. But by putting that out there, the same thing I did when I wanted to become a millionaire. I put it out there when the student's ready, who usually appears? The teacher. And when I put it out there, however the universe works, that I would like to meet and learn off some billionaires, in my whole life, I'd never met any billionaires. Within a space of a few years, I met 5 or 6. Some famous ones, some that you wouldn't even know, just private people. Because however the intention works. And as a result of that, just hanging around those people, it made me think at a different level. And I completely come back and looked at my companies. That's where I learned to delegate more. I learned to let go, not micromanage, and free up my time so I have more competent people run my companies, and I would be free to start new projects. Free to be creative or improve things, as opposed to, it's a bit like Richard Branson. If he just stayed working in Virgin Records, that's all there would have been. He had to step out of that and be free to create more. And many of you have such capacity is that you get bored doing the same thing over and over again. Is that true? You know, I like to do a lot of things because I get bored if I do the same thing. It doesn't matter. You might have a career that you're passionate about in the beginning, but after you do it over and over again, it becomes mundane. Does it make sense? So by having a variety of things to do in your life, it stimulates you. It keeps you performing at a higher level. It keeps you excited about life and that passion. Who's following what I'm saying here? Because life is too short to allow boredom to creep in and sap your energy away. There's so much to do. Everyone in this room should have at least 100 things to do before you die. Do you have that list? Who has that list? Fantastic. Okay, who doesn't? Do you have at least one thing to do before you die? You want to have that list. Me and some of my mates, what we do is that we also have a goal every year. We want to see new countries we never saw before. I think one of my friends, who's actually he won't be here tomorrow, he generally is, he sends his apologies, Nick Halleck. And what he's up to, I think, about 127 countries he's seen around the world. I'm up to, I haven't counted, but almost to 100. So we have these little competition battles of how we can keep track and get to more countries. You know, so in other words, every year you're going to somewhere different because you're only going to live X amount of time. Do you want to see the world? Admittedly, there's a couple of countries you mightn't bother with. But you really want to get out. It's fun if you've got a few days short. Or what I love, I'm fortunate enough to have a peer group where people are generally financially free. So, it was only a few weeks ago with 2 days' notice or 1 day's notice, text a few mates, and away we go for a week and hang out and just have some fun. But it's that brainstorm and creativity and ideas come because when you get in just a structured format too much in life, you limit the potential for a spiritual adventure to happen in your life. If you're surrounded by the same people all the time doing the same things, then you're not open to potential lessons. You don't meet new and interesting people that could have a message for you, could have a lesson for you, or you could share and contribute to them in some way that you might even not be aware of what that message or stimulation that you might give to someone else just through a conversation. You could be having an innocent conversation and that person picks up on something and that completely changes the direction of their life. Does that make sense? And you might not even be aware that you're actually a stimulant or catalyst for them changing their life. Because most people are too preoccupied with material survival to really be open to a higher level of thinking, higher level of consciousness, and allowing things to flow. There is magic in the world if we allow it to flow. If we're structured too much, locked in, limited places we go, limited people we see, then we're cutting off from the possibilities of life. Who's following what I'm saying here? And this is why freeing up your life is critical for you to continue to grow, evolve, and add value. Who else wanted to share? Okay, we'll go down the front row here with Peter first. Let me guess. Oh, sorry, yeah.
Danny from Team 2, the Motivational Kings.
From Team 2.
I just wanted to say, I think I'm sure everyone in the room so inspired by our last speaker, Tony, and in particular, he's that attitude of just no doesn't exist, never say no, and then when he told us about the gold medal that they won, and then they gave the medals to that other athlete in the pool because they, felt so inspired by their courage. There was a million lessons in that talk. It was a fantastic talk.
Give him a hand. And also something I talked about yesterday that some of you may have yesterday had some excuses that were holding you back. And when you hear Tony's story, it's like, well, there's no real excuses that are holding you back from what you can do. It's just a choice. An excuse can be a reason. Is it true? Turn excuses into reasons why you should do something. Peter, do you want to share? Yeah. What team are you on, Peter?
Crocs.
Team 10. I have a suspicion Team 10 might be doing quite well in the points.
Yeah, my thing was his reason for taking all those risks and crashing all those times was Tony's last presentation, was that he's a leader, not a follower. And if you want to lead, you got to take risks. And my whole life, I've kind of looked at leaders that, like, I've been rebellious and just like, yeah, you suck. I don't want to follow you, you know? Like, but yeah, that's someone I want to follow, Tony. I guess you got to be a leader to follow Tony.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah,
Great leaders are great followers.
Big emotional realization for me, so.
That's good. Give him a hand. So basically you're saying Tony's a legend. Is there anyone over this side that wants to share? Feeling neglected? Let's go right down the second back row there. Yep, far away. What team are you on?
Team 6.
Team 6, yep.
Something that I found really good was the exercise that we done last night, where we just had to sort of stand in a little space and we imagined like gratitude coming down and showering us with it. I found it really good to let go of anger, fear, doubt, and frustration. And one thing, like when we were doing that, Jamie, I was really pissed off with you. Like I was just taking that on board. Like you were saying, take it on board. And I was going, oh, Jamie, shut up. But it worked out all good because we went through the positive steps and it turned out all good in the end. So thank you, Jamie.
You're welcome. So if I ever say to you again, remember a time when you were angry, don't think of me, okay? Very good. One more over here. We'll hear from one more person. Let's go here. Yep. What team?
Sorry. Oh.
Yep, far away.
Team 7.
Team 7, yep.
Again with Tony. He had his obvious handicaps, which everybody could see. I realise I've got mine. Mine's psychological. And I think that probably applies to a lot of us.
That's true. Just like the elephant, remember? Not that I'm comparing anyone here to elephants, but remember, yesterday, the elephant was conditioned with the chain that keeps trying to move too far away, cut into its leg, and then they take it off, eventually put a rope around it, or a string, which they could easily break. Their only limitation now is in their own mind. And that's what the point of the board breaking exercise, just remember, was not about breaking a piece of timber. It was about a metaphor that if you can step up, get yourself in state, and at least have a go. Even when there's fear and doubt, you've never done something before, but at least have a go. That's what it's about. And then a lot of you surprised yourself that you didn't even know whether you could do it, but you stepped up and the board broke. And you're like, my God, I did it. Does that make sense? Where others of you, the board didn't stand a chance. Is it right? It was running for dear life, okay? So the point is in life is just get to risk that failure. And as I talked about yesterday, my mentor said, Jamie, you're right on track for success when I was early 20s. I failed my first business. So he said, you've actually have failed. Most people aren't willing to do that. You risk and you fell flat on your face. Best thing that could ever happen to you. In fact, if I didn't fail in my early 20s, we would not be having this conversation today. It was the pain that I went through that hit a threshold. I said, that's enough. I'm going to change my life. And out of that, then learning the solutions for myself, years later, it's much easier for me to pass them on to other people because I had to go through it myself so I know what it's like. Make sense? Okay? So there's a lot of things that you've been learning, and I've got to commend each and every one of you because you are an awesome audience. The energy in the room has been fantastic. You have been playing full out. And you've got a lot more to look forward to. So let's go, shall we? How do you go about becoming having a millionaire's lifestyle in less than the next 12 months without even needing to become a millionaire? Now, you can become a millionaire if you want, but I'm just saying this is a way to do it even without becoming a millionaire. Why I like this strategy or this concept is because it relates to most people. To become an investor, you'll generally need capital, even though you'll learn some strategies this weekend where you can do it with minimal capital. With this, you don't need capital. It's a restructure of what you do with your time. It's a restructure of your career. It's looking at things differently. Now, this will apply fully to about 60 to 70% of people in the room. There will be 30 to 40% of you that you won't be able to fully apply this concept because the nature of your careers. It doesn't mean you can't change your careers, but by the nature of your careers, you'll only be able to apply some of it. So you'll still get value out of it, but not fully. Okay, those people that tend to work in government jobs. Not in all government jobs, but if you're a nurse, okay, you have to show up at theatre, Or if you're a fireman, you have to show up on time. Okay, if you're a policeman, etc. Those type of jobs are a little bit restricted to this concept. Okay, but there's still ways to eliminate a lot of the things that you do. So what we're going to look at, jot this down. Yesterday I talked about 80-20, remember? And that 80-20 yesterday was 80% mindset, 20% strategy or mechanics. Now I'm going to introduce you to another 80-20 principle. Who can tell me another 80-20 principle? What's it called? The Pareto principle. Now, some of you will be familiar with this, some of you wouldn't. Okay, Pareto was an Italian economist that observed this. It's more of an observation than a law, but it's quite a powerful principle. And if you haven't heard of it before, this can change your life. Okay, so the 80-20 principle is basically the concept that often we spend 80% of our time to produce only 20% of the results. Okay? So we might spend 80% of our time, but it's only getting us 20% of the results. Does it make sense? Therefore, there's a flip side of that. Okay? There is 20% of our time that we're spending that is getting us 80% of the results. Make sense? It's an observation, and I'll give you some ideas on this, because if you can get this, this can revolutionize your life. Because most people are wasting time. They're unproductive, or at least part of their time is unproductive. It's just like in any company, typically 20% of the clients in most companies will produce 80% of the profit. In a sales team in a company, generally the top 20% of the salespeople will produce 80% of the results. Take a look at your wardrobe. 20% of your clothes, you probably wear 80% of the time. Is it true? Take a look at your friends. It's probably 20% of your friends you spend 80% of your time with. That's not always that exact percentage, but it's observation. We find this happens in life. 20% of the time you spend at work is probably producing you 80% of the results. The other 80% is probably only getting you marginally extra results. So what you've got to understand with this, if we apply it to a work or career principle, is jot this down. Apart from the Pareto principle, the other thing you need to understand is the law of what? The law of what? Not attraction, it starts with D. 2 words. The law of D and R. The law of diminishing returns. Jot this down. If you're going to take charge of your life, you have to understand this law. The law of diminishing returns should become obvious when we look back at this example. If you're spending 80% of your time and only getting 20% of your results, then it makes no sense. Let's say if you're spending, as an example, if you can identify in your work the 20% of your time that's most productive, that actually is getting you 80% of the results, the law of diminishing return would suggest that it's not smart to then invest the other 80% of your time to try and just get an extra 20% result. Does it make sense? It's law of diminishing return. You're going to have to spend so much more time to get that little bit extra result, and that's what people often do. Now, why they often do this, jot this down. This is not a law, but it's another thing that affects people. They're little what? Perfectionists. Okay, however you spell that. Perfectionists. Now, I have a suspicion that every one of us in this room has an element of that perfectionist in us. A perfectionist is what they want to do is they won't start something unless it's absolutely right. Or if they do start something, they'll spend all the time making it perfect. And they're the people that spend copious amounts of time in the law of diminishing return, spending all this 80% extra time to try and get the result perfect. When really they would be better off letting go and accepting life is not perfect. There is no perfect career. There is no perfect businesses. We as consumers, we are 2 ways. When we buy a product from a company, then we have an expectation the company's service should be up here. But then if we look at our own career, you work for a company, then the service you deliver is never as high as it is here. There's a gap. Does that make sense? Or if it's your own business, you'd like it to be up here, but there's a gap. So it's like when you buy your house. The price you'd be willing to pay to buy your house is less than the price you'd want when you want to sell it. Does that make sense? If you want to sell the house, you'd say, well, it's worth this. If you're negotiating to buy the house, you say, no, it's worth this. There's a gap in between. And it's the same with consumer expectations in business and careers. If we're a consumer, we expect the service to be here and to be perfect. But if it's our own career or business, we know that there is no perfection. Things don't go right all the time. It's down here and there's this gap. Does that make sense? So what we've got to understand is that to be successful, you don't have to be perfect. Richard Branson, arguably the most successful entrepreneur on the planet. Are Virgin companies perfect, yes or no? Have you always had a perfect service when you've flown Virgin? Most of the time, a lot of times they've been able to do it at a high level, but not always perfect. Is that true? Sometimes you probably bitch and moaned. Is it true? Or one of their other companies, Virgin Active, or whatever it is. You probably look at Apple. Arguably, recently become the largest company on the planet, overtook ExxonMobil or whatever it was, and a hugely successful company. But we all know Apple products break down a lot. Is that true? They're not perfect. I mean, how many iPads have you bought? Not iPads, sorry, iPods. Do they last more than a year? You usually get an updated one, but you don't mind. You love the product so much, you're such a raving fan, you'll overlook the fact they might break down a few times. You just get a new one. You just get a new one because you love them that much. Does that make sense? They're not perfect. There is no perfect product. There is no perfect company. And there is no perfect individual. So my point is that what we want to do is we need to deal with this perfectionism in us. Now, and it will lead to another thing, why people also aren't very good delegators. Because they're like, I can just do it myself. It's quicker if I just do it myself, I can do it better. See, Richard Branson is a multi-billionaire because one of his greatest skills, if you want to become seriously wealthy, jot this down, delegation. The difference between poor, middle class, and rich in business or career would probably come down to this word here. Most people in this country, if you said, are they very good at delegating? Yes or no? Most people are not good at delegating. It's a difficult skill, I agree, but it's a skill. If you want to say, Jamie, how do I dramatically improve my life? Delegation is where it's at. The ability to let go, to work as a team. Because most people, like when my first company, when I was in my 20s, like I felt I had to do it all myself. I took the world on my shoulders, the weight of the world on my shoulders, and I didn't ask for help. Biggest mistake. Successful people ask for help. Successful people take advice. They continually ask others. And what's interesting, most successful people are happy to help others as long as they're committed. They're happy to help in most cases. Where unsuccessful people keep it all to themselves. Or when they get into financial difficulties, when they really need to ask for help, they're embarrassed or ashamed about it and they don't ask anyone. And they wait and wait until they almost go bankrupt. I mean, how many times do I see cases of people like, they leave it too late. They come at the last moment when there's about no opportunity left to solve the problem. When did they just put their hand up and said, I need help earlier in the piece, then there's plenty of solutions. Does it make sense? So we want to be smart about that, but delegation is a critical skill. So law of diminishing returns, that's what we've got to be aware of. And let me put this into a system so we can look at how we do this. So the first step, if we want to change our life, the goal here is to get the clutter and the busyness out of our life, to free up our life so we can do the 100 things we want to do before our die or 1,000 things we want to do, so we can get our life about lifestyle priority focus on the things that are most important to us. Okay? The idea of working all our life is not what it's about. Now, you say, Jamie, what if I love my work? Well, the concept of the 4-hour work week, and Tim Ferriss, it's in one book. Who's read the 4-hour work week? Okay? Highly recommend this book. You really need to read it. So if you haven't read it, put it on your to-do list. Okay? 4-hour work week. The other program I'd recommend, it's not up here, it actually is Time Rich Homestudy. They're giving these away like for $95 if you're here this weekend. I mean, that's worth thousands of dollars. And that's what I'm going to go through now is in depth, in detail. That's the other thing that I'd look as part of your homework to study. And there's also a book on that as well. But the 4-hour work week was really about what happened to Tim Ferriss is that when he broke up, his girlfriend dumped him basically and left him a plaque. And I forget what was on the plaque, but something to the effect that work finishes at 5 p.m. In other words, he was a workaholic. And that's why she left him. Okay, because all he do is consume with work. Typical person, had his own business, work, consumed his life. So no time for relationships, and his life was out of balance. So it was a wake-up call for him. And out of that, he went on the search to say, how do I automate? How do I systemize? How do I eliminate? How do I delegate my career, my business? Because most entrepreneurs will say, well, you don't understand, Jamie, my customers need to speak to me. The business won't run without me. These are the common things. Well, I can't find good people. Common things. Who's in business for themselves here, by the way? Okay, you would relate to what I'm saying here. These are common things that people, Jamie, you don't understand. My business won't work without me. I mean, I need to be there. Okay, I can't find good people. If I could find good people, yeah, I'd delegate. Common challenges of business, but that's the things that hold a business back. So as a result of that, what he did was come up with the concept of 4-hour work week. In other words, now it doesn't mean that you only work 4 hours a week. A lot of people take that literally. What he means is that you should get your life so systemized that if you're passionate about something and you love what you do, then that's not work, that's passion. But minimize everything else, all the mundane things or the admin things or the things that you don't really enjoy doing, to squeeze them down to no more than 4 hours a week. So that's all you have to do. All that stuff that gets done. The rest of your time, you're doing what you love to do, and that may include work as well, but you're doing it because it's something you believe in, you're passionate about. Does it make sense? That's where you're coming from. There's other people going, well, 4 hours a week, is that for real? How do I get everything done in 4 hours a week? Well, that's what he's talking about, the mundane stuff. Get it done in minimal time. So here's what we're going to do. This system I call time rich. Jot this down. Step number 1. What we need to do is eliminate. What do we need to do? Eliminate. So what we're going to do is use the Pareto principle to do this. So what you're going to do over the next few weeks is observe where you spend your time, especially in your career. And you're going to use the 80-20 principle to identify through observation what is the 20% of activities you do in your business, in your career, that is producing the 80% of the result, producing most of the results. You're also going to identify what time are you spending that 80% of your time that's getting minimal result. You're going to become clear about that by just observing. And then you're going to start eliminating it. Eliminating that wasted time. Okay, remember I talked about yesterday about the week before you go on a holiday, you squeeze so much in and you focus on what's most important because then you're going away to do something you're passionate about or excited about. That's what you've got to do with your life all the time. So part of the process, what I did, I don't know where I got this idea from, but many years ago, I would set up regular holidays. I talk about it in my book, every few months or whatever, mini holidays, mini retirements. And Tim Ferriss is a big advocate of this as well. In other words, what you do is you have your short-term goals, so you have to squeeze your work in, and then you're going away for your reward. Now, I love what I do, and 90% of what I do in my different companies and my career I enjoy. It's probably 5 or 10% I don't enjoy, but I delegate that as much as possible. You still have to check budgets, you have to read financial reports at times. That doesn't really excite me, but it's important. But I minimize that time, okay? So the concept is that you want to look at your life 12 months in advance at least and say, where's all the... You should start your year off, so New Year's is coming up. Start your year off and plan all the holidays you're doing for the next 12 months. So you say, Jamie, what do you mean holidays? I haven't had a holiday for 5 years. Well, you need to start having a holiday, having a break. Now, a holiday might be just 3 days away. You don't have to spend lots of money, but you set your life up how you want. Then you say, how do I create the revenue? How do I free up my time to make that a reality? Otherwise, what people do is they base their planning on their current situation, which is like driving a car down the freeway, looking in the rear vision mirror and expecting to get to where you want to go safely. It's dangerous, isn't it? You don't base your future on your past. So if you earn $50,000 a year and then you go, okay, I'm going to extrapolate that out for the next 12 months. Well, I'm going to be working 48 weeks out of 52. I only get 4 weeks holiday and I only earn $50,000 a year. That's all I can afford. That's looking at your past and putting it into your future. No, you go, no, this is my future. I want to be able to work only this amount of time. I want to be able to travel to these amount of places, and I'm going to be creative so it doesn't have to cost me a lot of money. And then I'm going to figure out how to free up my time so I don't have to spend 5 days a week at work or 6 days a week or in my business. I'm going to free up some time, and I'm going to generate some more revenue so then these things become a reality. Does that make sense? That's what I did. And what started to happen is that I become, one, when you go away on a holiday, you're so excited going, this is amazing, I've learned some new ideas. I've never been on a holiday yet that hasn't made me more money than it cost me to go on that holiday. Jot that down. Jamie's never been on a holiday yet. But they jot down the concept of that. Because let me ask you this. Do most people go on regular holidays, yes or no? No. So you should do the exact what? The concept of doing this is that what I did, and I didn't realize I was doing it, but when I'd go away, I'd tap into my creativity. I'd be working on my business, on my career when I'm away on a holiday. I might be having fun, doing adventurous stuff. Ideas would flow. You tap into your creativity. And as a result, I go, oh, that's a brilliant idea. When I get back, I'm going to implement that, transform my company, or transform my investing, transform my life. Does that make sense? If I didn't go on that holiday, I'd be stuck in the typical routine, wouldn't have got those ideas, would have been busy making a living or working in a business. Because a lot of people are financially successful, but they're still stuck in their business. My earliest mentor was a warning. He was an example in some areas, but he was a warning. And he's a workaholic, and his relationships are falling apart. I'm like, mental note, I will build my business as they run without me because I'm not going to have business that relies upon me. I'll have business that I'm passionate about and spend time in, but mental note, I'm not going to be a workaholic. Life's too short. I want to balance. Does that make sense? So that's really drove me to say, you know what, I'm restructuring from the beginning to set my life up the way that I want. Otherwise, you'll fall into this trap. So this trap is this. There are such things called active income, which we all know about. Active income means you sell your time for the dollars. Job, basically. There is passive income, jot this down. And then there is what I call semi-passive income. Now, semi-passive income, I'll give you an example of that, but it still might require a little bit of your time, like renting shares as an example. Let's say it takes 30 minutes a month. It's not completely passive, you've still got to spend some time with it, but it's definitely semi-passive. An internet business. If you're an internet business that runs pretty much without you, you're still spending time monitoring it, building it, keep an eye on it. So it's semi-passive income. Making sense? Passive income might be purely dividends or rental returns off property, that sort of stuff that, you know, is pretty much passive, is pretty much outsourced, okay? So the question is this, and here's how Western society stuffs themselves up. They're climbing up this wrong ladder, they get to the top, it's leaning against the wrong wall. If I said to you, you could have $10,000 a month active income, which is $120,000 a year, that's a decent salary in Australia, or $5,000 a month passive or semi-passive income, what would you take? Now, you choose that because you know that's probably the right answer. And I'm speaking to the converted. But if we ask a lot of people out there just in normal society, they'd probably take, in a lot of cases, they take the 10 grand because they don't quite get what we're getting at here. But you take the 5,000 because the reality is the person on $5,000 a month earning half the amount of the corporate person in a job. Now, if you're earning $10,000 a month, $120,000 a year in a corporate job, your employer pretty much owns you. Is that true? You wouldn't be working 40 hours a week. You'd be working 50, 60 hours a week, I dare say. They own your ass, basically. So, and you mightn't get all your holidays because they might need you in the office during holidays, or if you're on holidays, you'll be checking your BlackBerry. Okay? Here, someone on half the income can have a better quality of life. Why? Because you can't just times the money, you got to times it by the time value. This has very little time value, true? Because you have to sell your time. Here has massive time value. That $5,000 is worth a lot more than the $10,000 a month in quality of life. Because remember, the result is not how much money you make. The result is, what is it? Lifestyle. Result is lifestyle, so go for the end result. Most people have been taught, go to school, get the university education, get a higher paying job, and that's key to success, and they go that ladder, they climb that ladder. Higher paying job, but they're locked in. They get a bigger house, bigger car, they're paying all this off. They're now addicted to the money. They're now trapped on that, okay? So the $5,000 a month, if you can get it semi-passive, you could actually live, and if you're creative, you could live an extraordinary quality of life on $5,000 a month passive income. True? Some people say, oh, Jamie, I need more money than that. Yeah, you might want more money than that, but if you are creative, is there places in the world that you got holiday, imagine $5,000 a month. Remember, the difference is there's two types of holidays. There's a typical holiday people go on, is that they're stressed from work, they've got debt, they're sick of their job, but they're like, God, I need a holiday, I can't handle this anymore, and they can't afford it, but they put it on their credit card and they go away for a holiday. But all the time they're overseas on the holiday, they're subconsciously thinking, my God, I've got to pay this back when I get back, and then every time they pay for something, it's a negative anchor. It's like, shit, it's so expensive converting the currency, it used to be like that, and it's like, it's just consistent negative anchors. That's not really a holiday. A holiday is when you go away on a holiday and you're relaxed. A holiday, even you probably don't need another one because you had so many of them, but it's part of your discipline to force yourself to go on. I've had times when I didn't want to go on a holiday. I love what I'm doing so much, but I've had to force myself to go on a holiday. Okay? You have to be disciplined with this strategy, otherwise it won't work. And I'm not joking. I remember having to go, I had a chance to go and hang out with Tony Robbins many years ago in Tahiti. And I'm like, I'm so busy, I'm not sure whether I'll go. And I was like, shit, this is what I teach. I go away, I discipline myself, and I force myself to go. And had the most amazing time, got the best distinctions, ideas, etc. Brought it back to what I did and totally improved things. If I'd stayed just working that week, I would have achieved a fraction of what I achieved by being away. Who's following what I'm saying here? So it's a very powerful concept. So the holiday is this. You're on a holiday, but you're making passive income. So let's say a skiing holiday. What I love about skiing is that when you jump on the chairlift at the bottom of the mountain, I know the time I get to the top of the mountain, I will be richer than what I was when I got on the bottom of the chairlift. Does that make sense? Who enjoys skiing now? Even if you hate skiing, that is skiing, okay? Because as you go up the mountain, you're getting richer. Other people are getting poorer. Every run's costing them money, and they're away from their job, they're not making anything. You want a holiday where money is coming in, because then you can spend more money, can't you? If let's say you spend $5,000 for the month's holiday, well, it hasn't really cost you anything because you earned $5,000 for the month anyhow. So it's free. It's almost a free holiday. And that's the difference. That's what we've got to get through this concept. We say, Jamie, it makes perfect sense, but how do I get this? How do I get more of this? Well, there's multiple ways you're going to learn this weekend, but let's stay with this concept, because the way you get this could be right under your nose. You could be actually doing something right now. You only have to restructure, and you already had the answer. You just have to think left field, and I'll go through that with you. So, but here's what the challenge is. In Western society, I believe we have an addiction to money. Let's test this theory, shall we? You say, okay, $10,000. What have I said to you? I have a job opportunity. It's not $10,000 a month. It's $20,000 a month. That's $240,000 a year. Who now, even though you know and you just agreed that this can have a decent lifestyle, passive, $5,000 a month, who now would be tempted to at least come and check out the job? Who'd at least come to the interview? $20,000 a month, just like, yeah, $5,000, I know I can have an okay life on that and travel and stuff, but $20,000 a month, it's like, I know what I'll do. I'll just do the job for a little while. I will save the money up, okay, and then I'll retire and I'll start living my life down the track. Who's following what I'm saying here? In Australia, we'll go and do the mining jobs, etc., etc. And now, sounds like a good theory. Now, if you follow through and discipline on that, I think Holly shared her story yesterday, so we get a chance tonight and tomorrow, etc., to have a coaching session with her. I think she shared a story in video. And that's what she did. She went away to the mines, she made a lot of money, and she put that into investments, but she was disciplined, did it for a short period of time. But what happens to most people is when they start earning $20,000 a month, what happens to their expenses? They start getting used to earning that, so they spend more, they get the bigger mortgage, the bigger cars, and now they're trapped at a higher income. This happens to a lot of people. In the last credit crisis, went into the mines, they used to earning a lot of money, but then the credit crisis hit and they lost their job briefly, and they had to come back, and the only jobs were like $50,000 a year council jobs. It's a bit of a change from earning $150,000, $250,000 a year to having to take a $50,000 council job. They can't afford to take the job. Do you know what I'm saying? Because they get addicted to this. So this ladder becomes very addictive. So Western society, we get addicted to money. We're addicted to all, the significance and the job and the prestige. $20,000 a month, does your employer own your ass? Yes or no? You're now working 60, 70, 80 hours a week. You're expected to respond to email after midnight. Okay? That's the price. So some people go, well, it's just tempting. So yes, we can take the higher paying jobs if we're disciplined in the short term to save up and get investing to free ourselves off. But in Western society, people just keep putting their life off. Imagine in third world countries where we go to resorts, say in Fiji or Bali or Thailand or some parts around the world. You go to a resort and the locals there, and they think, these rich people from rich countries, they come here and they lay around and do what we do all the time, but they think they have to have all the money to do this. When we just do it every day of their life. I mean, think of Fijians, like no big deal. They go to the beach every day. They sip on a coconut every day, drink a bit of kava juice. They're pretty relaxed people. Yet, for us to enjoy that, we have to be rich, and from a rich country, and we take a week off because we're so stressed of our life just to do what third world people do on a day-to-day basis. It makes absolutely no sense, does it? Okay. So there's a story how an investment banker in New York, he took something like a $3 million a year job. And it was like, he didn't need really the money, but he took it. And it's like, why'd you take it? It's because, well, if I take this job down the track, I can save enough up, and then I can go and live in Thailand. You don't need $3 million a year. You can go and live in Thailand now for hardly anything. It's this screwed up mentality of money, 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 and said, hang on a minute, what are we after? Lifestyle. Lifestyle is money plus time, the time value. So that's where it might take more effort to create this, but it's worth a lot more to us. It's our life we're talking about. Now, what have I said? Hey, it's not $20,000 a month. It's $40,000 a month. Who's showing up to the interview in a hurry? Because now it's like, my God, it's and this is the ladder that we go up. Okay? So that's what we've got to be aware of. How do we change this? As I said, step number 1 is this. What we're going to do is consider the first way to get your lifestyle is through your career. So when I started working for my mentors' companies, I shared yesterday, what I did is I didn't take a salary position right up front. What I did is I negotiated because I realized time is money. I negotiated instead of a salary job, which was a fixed income, more secure income, to say I'll negotiate a results-based contract where I don't have to be here all the time. I have to be there X amount of time for meetings and things like that and showing up and trained and know what I'm doing. But I will negotiate. And also by a results-based contract, I could make more money. Because the more results I produce, I'm getting paid for results, not for my time. The other people working for the company are working 40, 50 hours a week or more. Thank God it's Friday type people, and they're fixed income, small bonuses, and that's what they have to do. Where I'm like unfixed income, so I have no certainty. I have to deliver. But I know I can produce results. Why? Because I'd educated myself. I'd studied marketing about business. I'd studied about cost cutting. I knew I was learning a lot, so I knew I could add more value than a typical employee. It's not that hard to add more value than a typical employee in this country. Does that make sense? The typical employee is stealing the paper clips and pens at lunchtime. They don't give a rip about the profit of the company. They don't have a purpose in life other than to pay off the mortgage or pay the rent. They're not driven. They're not highly skilled. So you can easily outperform. Is it true? Just what you've learnt this weekend, apply a fraction of that. You're worth more to society than the average person. If you really study a lot of these other skill sets, you can continue to add that and you can add so much value. This is not just about entrepreneurs. If you're an entrepreneur, you must do what I'm about to go through. If you work for a company, you're an entrepreneur working in that company, you must do this, okay? If you want to have your lifestyle. So it's critical to do that. I was about to share something with you, I completely forgot. What was it? No, I haven't finished with step 1 yet. No, I was about to share something with you. I started the story. You're meant to be listening. What was it that I was about to tell you? Negotiate, yeah, so my career. Okay, so what I did is a negotiated performance-based contract. That meant I wasn't selling 40 hours a week for $50,000, $60,000 a year. I only had to be there X amount of time, so now I was in charge of my time. And also I was more driven because the more results I could produce, the more money that I would make. And I needed to make money. Okay, so I negotiated up front. Now some of you can switch to contract, and who's already on a contract basis, okay? Now, in my business program and internet program, we could go through a particular strategy to get people, that's one way you can do that. In many industries, they love to outsource. I've had members that have taken this concept, and this is probably one of the most common strategies, and they go back, negotiate with their employer about being on contract, and many industries actually like it. I remember one 20th century member from Mount Gambier many years ago, and what he did, he took this concept, went back, he was a chemical engineer, went back to the chemical company he was working for and said, you know what, I now don't want to work on a salary, I only want to work 3 days a week, and I want to work on a contract. So they said they couldn't afford to lose him, because in regional towns, how hard is it to find people that are qualified to do these jobs? And they said, okay, and they looked up what the consultancy rates are. Do you know in most companies, the difference what you get paid if you work on salary? Most companies, big companies, have consultancy rates. The amount they pay per day to consultants is like up here. The amount you get paid on a fixed salary is like down here. Did you realize that? Yeah, a lot more. So they basically said, okay, but you'd have to go on the consultancy rate. And they told him what it was. It was like triple his income. 3 days a week. So he went from 5 days a week to 3 days a week, contract, tripled his income, and then the other 2 days a week, he was more productive because what he did was use all these strategies. Got into the real estate market, into share renting, etc., and that's how he set himself up. Now, that's not possible for every career because it's not that simple. That's one way to do that. We're going to look at doing it a slightly different way for the rest of you. So what we're going to do, the first step is eliminate. So who's found at work that if you're productive, you can get a lot of your work done in less than 5 days a week? Who's found they got a lot of the work done by Wednesday, Thursday? Then what happens, though, if you're productive, and I know it happens in my companies as well, whoever's productive, guess what happens? You dump more work on them because you know they'll do it. They may get a marginal slight increase on pay rise, but not exponentially to what the extra work they take on. So if you're productive in a salary-based position, you'll get a slightly higher salary, but you'll get 10 times more work because you'll get it done. So a lot of people are able to get their work done before 5 o'clock Friday, but it's no point because you have to still look busy and you have to be there to 5 o'clock Friday. Because if you're not in the office, they're not going to be happy in most jobs. So what we're looking at here is the idea of 9 to 5, 48 hours, 48 weeks or 50 weeks a year, is an industrialization concept. I mean, we're talking about an outdated education system. We're now talking about an outdated working model that most of you signed up for. Why? Because everyone else did. Whoever thought and go, you know what? Everyone in this society works best between the hours of 9 to 5. Does everyone work best between 9 to 5? Yes or no? Who likes to work preferably at night? Who prefers to work early in the morning? Who prefers not to work at all? Okay. The point is, it's an outdated concept, just like the education system is, but we all sign up for it because everyone else does, and that's just the way it is. It's outdated. The world has changed. Do we not want more out of life these days? We don't just want what our baby boomer parents, or many of our baby boomers, wanted, was that you just get a house and get a job and pay off your mortgage, and then that's your main goal in life. Generation X won't settle for that. They want to do more of that. Generation Y, no way would they settle for that. So as a younger generation, we want more out of life. We're willing to work for it, but we want a more exciting, adventurous life, and we know we can have it. And flexibility, see, our grandparents' generation, the idea of change was difficult for them. They were coming out of the Great Depression, and they totally went for security because they seen the world collapse and just be happy to have some food on the table. So their psychology was very fear-based. Around money was like cash for everything. Just look up, things can get really bad. Understandable, is that true? Generation Y is a long, long way from that happening. They've been born into a rich country. They can't even remember a recession because they weren't born in the last recession we had to have. It's true? I'm Generation X. My working career started after the last recession. So we've had like 17, 18 years of uninterrupted economic growth. We didn't even technically have a recession through the credit crisis. So Generation X doesn't even know what a recession is. You'd have to go to the baby boomers. Okay? Generation Y. So baby boomer generation knows what recessions are. And that's why baby boomers are a little bit more cautious, but also they're seeing their parents and like, well, we don't want to be that cautious. We can see that we want to have a life, we want to travel the world, etc. So you see how the generational change has changed our thinking around money and career. So what we do is eliminate. So when you use the 80-20 principle, what you're going to realize is you probably could get your 5-day-a-week work done in 3 days. True? However, you still have to show up for 5 days at this point in time. but it mightn't be 3 days. It might be 6 hours a day you get it done instead of 8 hours. Okay, spread over the week, so you've got time free. You still have to be at work at this point. We're going to look at changing that in a moment. So let's say you can become productive. Now, if you own a business, you should be saying, okay, instead of me spending 5 days or 6 days a week in my business, how do I get my stuff done? By eliminating and get the work done in 3 days a week to free up the other 2. Now, you say, Jamie, but I really want to grow my income. Well, the other 2 days when you free it up, if you own your own business, you then become more productive and generate more income or start another company with those 2 days if you want to do that. Or you say, no, I don't want to do that. I'm going to take those 2 days and I'm going to just go on holidays or have a bigger weekend. However you want to work it, okay? Just by being productive. And step number 2, that you've been waiting for, is what I alluded to before, is you're going to delegate. Delegation. That's where this now comes in. So what you're going to do is to delegate. If you cut your workload to 3 days a week, then what you're going to do is consider this. Consider delegating some of your work. How do you delegate it? Well, what large companies do is they outsource. Is that true? They delegate a lot of their work to India, to Philippines, around the world, globalization. All successful managers or successful entrepreneurs will have a PA. Is that true? They'll delegate to a PA, or they'll delegate to an EA or to managers because they have to be able to delegate. So if you want to become wealthier, think like a wealthier person. Delegate some of your workload. You say, Jamie, I only earn $50,000 a year. How can I delegate? Well, if you earn $50,000 a year, how much per hour is that? About $25 an hour, okay? These days, through globalization, is there people on this planet that will work for you as your virtual assistant for $4 to $10 an hour? Yes or no? Yes or no? So, Jamie, are you saying we should exploit people in third world countries to do our work? Yes or no? Yes. Absolutely. No, is it exploitation? Think about this. This is what I want you to seriously consider. You don't have to do this when you're saying it's an ideal. Many people are doing this, okay? Someone $4 to $10 an hour overseas in some countries. Is that exploitation or is that middle class? You're taking someone who doesn't have a job, giving them a job and making them middle-class citizens. Would they feel exploited by you, or would they be so grateful that you give them a job? You're spreading the wealth around. You're helping other people, other emerging markets grow. Through technology, this is now possible. With industrialization, it wasn't. But in today's information age, it totally is. The idea of having a virtual assistant do a lot of your work for you. Now, here's the interesting thing. Many of these people from third world countries, actually, do they have a better work ethic than most of us? Are they hungrier? Literally. So the point is, also in many attributes, in many work areas, are they more skilled? In many cases, yes. Web design, admin, accounts. How many accounting firms charge you retail and then outsource the work to India, Sri Lanka, etc.? All the big accounting firms do that. They charge you retail and they outsource it. All the banks do it as well. They all do this. They don't often let you know about it, okay, but they all do that because they're smart, okay? So the point is, if you don't outsource yourself and do it effectively, your whole division eventually can be outsourced anyhow. So if you don't do this, it can happen in companies, happens all the time. So the point is, you could possibly delegate to a VA, even if you're not earning a lot of money, and your 3 days of work you're now doing, you could now maybe delegate 2 days of that. So you're basically got 1 day a week of work, which might be 2 hours a day. You're checking the work that you're meant to be doing, you're delegating the rest to your VA, but you've already become more effective at what you do. But you say, Jamie, that's great, but my boss still expects me to show up 9 to 5, 5 days a week. What, am I just going to pretend I'm working? So here's where you need to start negotiating, okay? What you do, jot this down first of all, number 3. Number 3 is automation. And number 4 is systemization. They're very similar. Systemization and automation. McDonald's is one of the largest companies on the planet, a multi-billion-dollar empire, and who the hell runs it? Kids, teenagers. The same teenagers that can't clean up their room for their parents are running a multi-billion-dollar business. And there's entrepreneurs here that will say, Jamie, you don't understand, I just can't find good people. That's why I can't delegate. That's why my business can't grow. Different equation, isn't it? McDonald's don't need to find good people. Why? Because they do two things. One, they systemize their system so anyone can do it. That way they can take advantage of cheap labor. And two, do they have good training systems, yes or no? So companies must be good, very good at training. The best companies on the planet are the ones that have the best training systems, okay? So systemization and automation. In other words, with automation, what do you mean by that? Well, customer service. Let's say your job is in customer service. Could you get clever instead of having to answer, say, 100 emails a day on similar questions? Could you identify what most of those questions are and create an FAQ and put that on the website and direct people there? Therefore, your 100 emails a day that might come in now might cut down to 20 emails a day because the other 80 can now answer themselves by, here's a link, see that? And you cut out your work, you automate some of your workload, and you can focus on this 20%. All of a sudden, then you're saved to time. Does it make sense? Automation is a powerful way with technology to do this. So you're still working 5 days a week. So what you need to now do is consider negotiating a more updated award structure instead of industrialization type contract. You might want to start negotiating, say, you know what, I need to spend some time at home, whether for family reasons or whatever reason, but I don't want to take time off work, I don't want to take holidays. I want to just trial for a week where I'll continue to work because there's a lot of things on, I want to get it done, but I just want to trial for a week at home, and that way I can spend time, whatever's come up with the family or whatever I need to be there. Plus, I won't have to fight traffic to work, so I'll be able to get more work done, and I won't be tied up with office politics and interruptions into my office. I'll just be able to get my work done, okay? So you might be able to negotiate, say, a week off. Not a week off, but a week to do. So what you do is that week that you're working from home, your goal is to show massive productivity. So you work 10 times as much if you have to, because you want to be able to come back after that experience and be able to show to your manager or your employer. So what's been amazing is that, spending time at home, I've been able to get so much more done. Look at all what I've been able to get done. I would like to consider at least 1 day a week working from home. You don't go for the whole, just let me work from home forever up front. You negotiate, say, 1 day a week. And if depending how much value you add to your employer and how flexible that organization is, many of you would be able to, with the right strategy, negotiate to work 1 day a week from home. Who thinks that might be possible for many people? Okay? So then you start this system. So what we're slowly starting to do is be able to get them confident that you can deliver results. Because ultimately, all the employers really care about is that you deliver results. Now, I know this to be true because in my organizations that I have people allowed to work from home. Okay? But there are people that I know that can deliver result. Other people have asked to be able to work from home and it's never approved. Why? Because we don't trust them. Not trust them in the sense that they're not ethical, but we don't trust that they can perform without supervision. Some people need supervision to get the best out of them. Other people prefer go-getters can make and actually do better without supervision. Who's following what I'm saying here? So you have to be someone that's adding value, can deliver results, can sell a message, and by that maybe working 1 day a week from home, you start that journey. Eventually you might be able to get it from 2 days a week from home. If that's all you accomplished, all of a sudden you're at the office 3 days a week, the other 2 days a week you're at home. Now remember, you're already getting most of your work delegated by a VA. You're getting most of your work done in a couple of hours a day. Are they going to come around and knock on your door at home and check that you're at home on those days? Yes or no? So working at home could be a 4-day holiday in Bali with your laptop doing it takes you a couple of hours a day to get your 8 hours work done in 2 hours a day because you're now automated, systemized, and you've got a VA doing a lot of your groundwork for you. And you're on holiday for the rest of the day. Who could handle a holiday if you only had to work 2 hours a day on a laptop by a pool or beach? So all of a sudden your lifestyle is you're turning your income into more of into a semi-passive income gradually. You may not get all the way where you can't never show up in the office, but at least even 1 day a week off would change your lifestyle. Is that true? 2 days, etc. Eventually you may get it to where I've had many members be able to do it where they only have to show up in the office when there's a meeting on or an important thing to be there. The rest of the time they're working from home or can work from anywhere as long as it's still delivering the result. Okay? That's one way to do it. Does it make sense? Here's what I want you to turn to the person next to you, teach your buddy how to use this concept at least in some way or the whole way to improve their life to create semi-passive income? Go for it quickly. Okay, does this make sense? Time rich. Overall, the concept is you want to move towards semi-passive income because that's worth more to you in time value ratio to income. And then we looked at a few different ways to do it. One, you can just start and negotiate right up front as a contract basis, like many people have. That's a simple way. The other way is this is a gradual process by even if you only applied a fraction of this, remember, like just eliminating wastage time and be more productive, you could then say, well, I want to continue working in the company, be more productive. You can put a clause, not a clause, but a proposal, say, well, I can double my capacity, but I'd like to increase my income exponentially as well. So you can also, the time that you free up, you can go and work harder and make double the income. Or in business, you can start another income or another business with that time. That's what you're looking at doing, okay? So overall, whether you apply all of it or a fraction of it, it can certainly improve the efficiency of you and your productivity. And not just focusing on generating passive income from investments, that's one way to do it, and that can supplement it, but also turning your current income into something that's more rewarding. Because who here would enjoy the job more if they only had to show up 2 or 3 days a week to the office? All of a sudden you go, yeah, I don't mind, that fits in with my lifestyle, I have better work-life balance, I see my kids more, I get longer weekends and go away for 4 or 5 day holidays more regularly, and I'm much more content. You'd probably be more productive. Now, some of you don't want to work at home all the time because you like the social connection, so you can have a bit of both, you can have that balance. Make sense? Okay, so before we move on, does anyone have any particular questions on anything that I covered in that they might want me to answer? No, does that mean you completely understand it? We'll take one quick question and then we'll move on. Yep, just down the front, far away.
I'm a builder, and
Yep.
just on a physical kind of job where you actually need to produce the work, we're just talking about it. So how would you go about something like that?
Yeah, so what you can do is there's a couple of things. To create wealth, you want to get, apart from money at work, is people at work. So if you're a builder, what you obviously be looking to do is build a team of builders and get leverage that way. That's one way you can do it. Apart from that, you'd be obviously more efficient at what you do.
Yeah.
Okay, you might be able to get more productivity instead of working 5 days a week, improve it that you work 3 days a week. But really about building a team. So where you can be overseeing a team and you're getting leverage. Like Nathan Tinkler built up a team of electricians. That was his first business. He was an electrician, then built up a team of electricians, and then he borrowed against that business to get into the coal mine. So electricians, builders, carpenters, plumbers, they're all perfect trades, and a lot of people become very wealthy through those trades. Not only just the income they can earn by being more efficient and being more productive and maybe going up market where you can charge more, but also then building leverage by building a team. That's the two things that you can do.
Okay, great.
Make sense?
Thank you.
Yep. Very good. Any other questions? Okay, so let's look at... far away, Leo. Quick one.
Okay. Is how do you overcome the fear factor of actually is...
Yeah, just a mic, thanks.
No.
Yeah.
Is how do you overcome the fear factor of actually... Is my wife will agree with this, I like to be a perfectionist.
Yep.
Sort of thing, in doing things, and therefore is when I have delegated the work, hasn't been done to my standard that I would like.
Yep.
So how do you change your attitude?
Are you in business for yourself, or you...
Well, I am now retired, but I still have my own company, which is in property investments,
Yep.
sort of stuff, and I'm also doing a semi passive as well.
Yep.
But I'm sort of looking at improving that by also doing other things as well, and at the same time is increasing my portfolio as well.
So your question is, how do you overcome the fear, which is a common fear, especially for entrepreneurs as far as delegation, to be able to delegate to someone else to be competent enough to do the job correctly? Who else has that fear? Okay, this is the biggest thing that stops people from delegating or building companies. Now, the reality is there's good reason for that fear. So it's not like you just say, well, you just got to delegate and hopefully it all works out. You've got to, recruit well. So you've got to have the right person to delegate to. And 2, you've got to do what the big companies do, train. And ideally, if you have systems like McDonald's does, there's less room for error. 3, you have to be willing, and just like Richard Branson says, is that you have to be willing to allow people to make mistakes, because they will at times. You want to minimize those mistakes. As an entrepreneur, you go, shit, a mistake can cost me a fortune. So you want to minimize that by having good systems, good training, good recruitment, and you'll still oversee them, Leo. So you'll still keep an eye on them. So you'll have a performance reviews or accountability factors where you might slowly do a handover where you minimize your time and you gradually get their skill level up to a level you're competent. And it might take time. But if it takes time, is it still worthwhile? Because if it took a fair time to free yourself up, you now have leverage. And that's the key to expanding what we do. Most people only have themselves at work because they're unable to communicate clearly, to train, to have someone else do what they do. Okay? So it's an important skill. It's a natural fear, and it's an important fear. It doesn't mean delegation always works. I've had difficulties in different managers, etc. It takes time to build a good team. It takes time to be effective at training, at communicating, and being very clear with delegation. So there's specific ways to delegate. I won't go into it now, but it's in the Time Rich book. It's in that, also Tim Ferriss has a lot of strategies on delegation, effective delegation. Make sense? Okay, what I want to cover right now is I want to move on to what I talked about, the art of fulfillment. Jot this down. We're going to go through what's the 6 human needs. You're going to have a chance to look at your own life right now and say, how can I make my life more fulfilling now and in the future? And this is going to be the keys to helping you do this. We all meet these 6 human needs at some level right now. The question is, how can you meet them at a higher level if you want to be more fulfilled? I also will give you, as you go through this, the big clue to people, the patterns of human psychology of people that are most fulfilled in life, what they tend to do, how they meet their needs at a higher level. Will give you a big clue. And also I'll highlight people that are unfulfilled, which one of these needs they're predominantly focusing on and why they're not fulfilled. Okay, there's habitual human behavior patterns that happen around the world, and it's very enlightening once you understand this, what to avoid or what to go for. Make sense? So jot this down, 6 human needs. Some of you have seen me cover this on the DVDs. So the first need that everyone has is the need, jot this down, it's the need for certainty. What is it? The need for, another word for certainty is what? Security. It's a very high need in humans. It's why everyone likes a safe, secure job. People like a stable relationship, etc. It equals certainty. You can get certainty through trying to control things or other people. True. Some people use control as a way to feel certain. You can get certainty through having faith in whatever your beliefs are. That's a sense of certainty. People meet their certainty through faith. It's a way for them to feel certain about their life or about something. So there's many different ways that we can meet our need for certainty, but as a human, we all have this need. Who has it? Everyone has this need to meet certainty. If you don't have a certainty in your life, then obviously you will feel this. Jot this number 2 down. Uncertainty. So it's uncertainty is also uncertainty/variety. Uncertainty/variety is also a human need. So who has this need? Everyone in this room has the need for uncertainty or variety. So the challenge is if you get too much certainty in life, what happens? You get bored. So then we need, variety is the spice of life. It comes from here as humans. We need stimulation. We need variety. Too much certainty equals mundane, equals boredom. And if we have too much of that, then, we get stuck in a rut or we're not fulfilled. So we also need this, okay? So who's ever done this before? Who's ever rented a DVD that you've already seen at the cinemas, at the movies? Who's ever done that before? Yeah. So I'm not the only person that does this, okay? Think about why we would do that. Why would we rent a DVD that we've already saw at the movies? Now think about it. One, is it meeting our need for certainty that we know the movie's good, yes or no? Yes. Totally, it meets our need because we don't want to waste the night getting a DVD. It's like, what are these movies? Crap. So we need some certainty that it's good. You notice now the trailers for movies are almost the movie itself. The trailers now tell you the whole plot and everything. It's like, wow, that was a really cool movie. Okay, I pretty much saw it. Do I need to go? So, but because I know people want more certainty that it's going to be good. So also though, we rent it because it meets our need for variety. Still enough, we probably realize that we forget some scenes And we don't remember everything, so we'll still get variety by watching it a second time. Makes sense? So it meets our needs for both those things. The third need that we have, jot this down, is the need for connection and love. What is it? Connection and love. Who has this need? Everyone, even those that say they don't need love in their life. We all, as humans, have a need for connection and love. Why do we have relationships? Why do we have friendships? Why do we have children? What's one of the driving reasons for having children? Connection and love, okay? Or at least we think that is what it's going to be, okay? So connection and love. There's many different ways to, why do people have pets? Connection and love. So there's many different ways to meet our needs for this. Number 4, jot this down, is the need for significance. What's it the need for? And who has this need? Everyone has this need. This is the need in humans to feel special, to stand out, to be unique, to be different, to feel worthy. So we all have this need. So we can meet, though, our needs at different levels. We can meet them at a high level, a low level, or in between level, okay? There's different levels we meet. For instance, you could get significance by building the tallest building in a city or in the world. You can get significance by destroying the tallest building in the world. Does it make sense? It's both trying to meet the need for significance, to be important, to be special, or to stand out. Does it make sense? So violence is a way to meet a need for significance. Let's say someone in society is feeling unworthy. They don't like society. They feel they're outcasts, they're not worthy, and they join a violent gang and get a gun. And they put a gun to Jürgen's head. Would that person putting a gun that might be feel worthless, has no place in society, but once they put a gun to Jürgen's head, are they now significant, yes or no? To Jürgen's life, totally significant. They went from a position of no power to total power. Does it make sense? Violence is meeting a need for significance in many ways. Does it make sense? For someone that doesn't feel worthy, to make them feel worthy. So we can meet our needs in high-level ways, or violence would be in a low level, okay? So jot this down. There's different classes of meeting your needs, okay? The ultimate is to meet a need that in a way that it feels good to meet that need. So it feels good. This is the ultimate way to meet a need, the highest level. It feels good. It's good for you. It's good for others. And it's good for the greater good. That would be the highest level to meet your needs. It feels good, whatever the activity is or what you're doing. It is good for you. It's good for others, and it's good for the greater good. That would be the highest level. I'll give you some examples of that in just a moment. The next level down might be something that doesn't necessarily feel good, but it is actually good for you. It's good for others and good for the greater good. Make sense? The next level down, you might be going, that's what's the lowest level might be something that doesn't feel good, isn't good for you, isn't good for others, and isn't good for the greater good. Okay? Say someone like into violence in a violent gang, it may feel good to them to have that power over Jürgen or have that power over people with guns and violence. But is it good for them, yes or no? No, people in gangs, in many gangs in many cities, say in America, they have a short lifespan. Their likelihood of dying at a young age, because the violence is very high, so it's not good for them. Is it good for others? Clearly not. Is it good for the greater good? No. So that would be an example of meeting the needs at a low level. May feel good, but it's not good for them, not good for others, and not good for the greater good. So significance. These days there's a thing called the internet. So a lot of people on the internet can get significance. Okay? They can tear people down. They can talk about people anonymously on the internet, defame people. So they may not have any significance in their life, but if they can attack someone, they can all of a sudden have significance. Does it make sense? So the internet, is very powerful for freedom of information, but it's also the downside of that is like email. Email is free, but what's the downside? Spam. People abuse that, and spam email. Downside of the internet, it's great that it's freedom of information, but then it can be abused. And that's being abused for the need for significance. Number 5, jot this down. 5 and 6. We'll put them in a different color because these two are critical. Now, the other need for significance is, you think about in the corporate world, How much and how hard will people work to one day have a corner office? Think about that. How much will people train and work to qualify to go to the Olympics or to win a gold medal? These are all ways to predominantly meet the need for significance, to stand out. How much will people do to be sports stars or movie stars or rock stars? It's all meeting the need predominantly for significance. Makes sense? So in the corporate world, significance is used a lot to drive people. In titles, like if you ever deal with an American company, basically nearly everyone on their card has vice president. Did you notice that? In American company, they tried to meet the need for significance, so they have a lot of vice presidents throughout the company. Each department. It meets, people will do more often for the title than they will for the money. Significance is a very important driver. But are people meeting in a way that's good for them and good for others? So number 5, jot this down, there's the need for growth. What is it? Growth. The need for growth, okay? If you're not growing, you're what? So you're not growing, you're dying. In other words, as humans, we must continually grow. Otherwise, we'll get bored or we won't be challenged. So a lot of people want to avoid challenges. Challenges are good because it makes us grow and improve who we are as a person. So we're continually growing, okay? So growth is critical. Now, what you've got to understand, jot this down. If you meet your needs from a particular event or activity, okay, from whatever you do on activity, if you meet 3 or more of your needs, from whatever the event or activity is, then it will become an addiction. And jot that down. It'll become an addiction. So if you're doing a particular activity, and if it meets 3 or more of your needs, it will become an addiction. Now, in society, we generally refer to an addiction, we tend to label that as a negative addiction, like drug taking as an example. But an addiction can be a positive or a negative addiction. You can be addicted to something that's good for you. Is that true? You can be addicted to something that's bad for you. So it'll become an addiction. And I'll share that with you because this is very critical to understand why human behavior is the way that it is. So growth is critical. And the last one, jot this down. The last one is contribution. What is it? Contribution. As a human, we all have this need to feel that we can contribute to others in some way. If we don't feel like we're contributing, we won't be meeting our needs at a high level. So the reason I put growth and contribution in a different color is you want to say, Jamie, if I wanted to be more fulfilled in my life, if I wanted to live my life on a higher level, and not just achieve, but be driven and fulfilled, then what is the 2 needs that most people are lacking? Take a guess. Growth and contribution. One, they're stagnant in their life and they're not continuing to grow, They've stopped school and they think learning finishes when they end school, when in reality learning usually starts after school. And 2, they're not contributing or feel like they're contributing to society in a meaningful way. And as a result, they're not highly fulfilled in their life. Make sense? If you study the most successful people, not just people that are a success in achievement, but success as far as happy in their life, or happy in at least the area of their life, you will find they're meeting these 2 needs at a high level. Let's look at someone, say, and if they're meeting 3 or more of their needs, it'll become an addiction. Let's look at someone like, say, Mother Teresa when she was alive. Mother Teresa, become famous and become very significant from her work in helping in third world countries and helping the poor. It's true? Now, do you think through her work, let's see if she was addicted to her work. Was she meeting her need for certainty, you think, through the work that she was doing? Did she meet her need for certainty in some way, would you say? Who'd say yes? I would probably say yes. She had a strong sense of certainty it was making a difference and that she could help. Uncertainty and variety. Do you think she had a lot of variety in what she did? She was dealing with different people every day. She would have saw a lot of different things. So she was probably meeting a need for variety as well through her work. Connection and love. Do you think she was getting a lot of connection and love through her work? Probably, I would dare say, I never met the woman when she was alive, but I would dare say from her psychology, is that was probably one of her predominant reasons. Not the only reason, but one of the reasons, okay? So now she's already addicted to what she was doing because she's met 3 of these needs already. What about significance? Do you think she felt significant through her work? Do you think it was the main reason she did it, though? It probably wasn't. She it was a byproduct of her, the work that she did. She became significant and famous because of people really inspired by what she did. But she wasn't driven by that. But she ended up getting significance out of it anyhow. What about growth? Would she have been continually having to grow as a person? Totally. That would have been one of the strong needs, one of the reasons why she would have done it also. What about contribution? Was she meeting that need? Totally. Meeting that need at the highest level, that was probably her driving force. Contribution and probably connection and love. Does it make sense? And so you can see why she was totally addicted to that and spent most of her life doing her work, because it was meeting her needs at a high level, and she was addicted to it because it was meeting more than 3 of those needs. Making sense? Okay. Let's look at someone, say, like Oprah Winfrey. Now, let's look at, say, her career. Let's say we know about her career. Did she get a lot of certainty through her work? Yes or no? She's one of the richest women on the planet, so she has a lot of certainty. Okay, total certainty. What about variety through her work? Mass variety, so she's certainly meeting her needs through variety. She does a lot of projects, does TV shows, meets amazing people. She has total variety. Connection and love, did she get a lot of that? Yes. Total, massively high connection and love. So already she's meeting 3 or more of her needs. So do you think she's addicted to her work, yes or no? Yes. She's addicted to her work, okay? Possibly, this was probably one of the driving reasons as well, okay? Significance, is she significant, yes or no? Yeah, Oprah Winfrey is probably the most influential woman on the planet. Massive significance. Was that a driving force for her in the beginning? We don't know. Probably not so much. Oprah's not someone that comes across as totally significance dominated, okay? She certainly gets a lot out of it, but she doesn't seem to be that's her driving force. Growth. She had a lot of growth. Massive. From, you see her photos of her when she was first starting her career, etc. She's continually growing. What about contribution? Does she feel like she's making a difference? Oh, yes. Totally. So contribution for her is a big driver. Connection and love, significance probably to some degree. But she's totally addicted to her work, and she would be very fulfilled in most aspects of her work because she's meeting those needs at a high level. Make sense? Now, if we don't know about Oprah's personal relationships, does it make sense? If we did this on her intimate relationship, then I would dare say she's probably not going to meet her needs as highest level. Who would agree with that? And there's without even knowing, just by suspecting. And it's also probably why she spends most of her time in her career. Does it make sense? Why? Because she's meeting her needs at a higher level there, so she's going to gravitate and move towards that. Where perhaps in her relationship, she's not meeting her needs at that level, so she probably doesn't spend as much time in her relationship. Making sense? Okay? So in certain areas of our life, we'll be more fulfilled than in other areas, and that's often why we're spending more time there, okay? Because it meets more of our needs. Making sense? So here's what I want you to do. Well, I'll give you a big clue. If we want to be more fulfilled in our life, what is the 2 needs that we need to really focus on? Tell me. Growth and contribution. So when we talked about yesterday that getting on purpose, and your purpose has something to do with contributing, making a difference, people that have a sense of purpose, a mission is better than no mission. And that sense of purpose about just helping other people and feel like they're contributing, they'll be so much more fulfilled on a day-to-day basis. Contribution is the big key. The other component of that is growth. If we're not growing, we feel we're not making progress. Jot this down. The key to human happiness is this. The word you're after for human happiness is this: progress. What makes humans happy is progress. If you think about in your life when you felt the happiest, it's when you felt like you're making progress towards a dream or goal, what you wanted, and you're like happy. Think about the times when you've been least happy, when you felt like you're not getting anywhere, when you felt like you're stuck, frustrated, not making progress. Does that make sense? Humans, progress makes us happy. And it doesn't matter what we do, but if we feel like making progress, I can remember just growing up as a kid on the farm, and that if we could make progress every year and improve the farm that little bit more, that would just be fulfilled, just make you happy, you see you making progress. But I remember a story of my granddad. He was sharing a story he was saying this gentleman he wanted some work to do, and it was in the depressionary times, and there wasn't a lot of work around. And he said, "You want some work to do? There's a pile of timber here. I want you to move it, and move it over here." So he moves the timber over here. Then he says, what else is there to do? So he goes, okay, now what I want you to do is move it back over there. Does it make sense? Are humans going to be fulfilled doing that? Because it doesn't seem like progress, because there's no point to, so it's not work without the sense of progress, of doing something that is going to achieve something. We're not happy. So happiness is based largely around human progress. If we're progressing towards a worthwhile dream or goal or aspiration, we will feel happy. If we feel like we're not making progress, we're stuck, we're frustrated, held back, or powerless to create change, we won't feel happy. So long-term fulfillment has a lot to do with growth and contribution. Now, if you studied this, in Western society, people in a third world country statistically are happier and more fulfilled than people in a Western society, despite the fact we have all these material things. Because in Western society, we become preoccupied with the material things, looking for external things to make us happy, where in the third world country, they often look at internal things and they stick to simplicity in life. Third world countries, they are much more grateful for food and the basics in life. Is that true? So they have a lot more things to be grateful for. They're also more family orientated. So they have larger family support networks, because if you don't have a pension system in your country, that was the pension system. Even in this country, when the country first started out, is you have large families. That's your support system. So they have much more family structure. They also do more exercise naturally. They're generally outdoors in villages or running around or out in nature more. As a result, they're more grounded, naturally more happy. They also have generally more a sense of community. They'll have a lot more dance and celebrations in their cultures, where Western society becomes very stagnant, very isolated, and we retract from society as much. Does it make sense? So all these things equal much more happy. They also have a better work-life balance, where in Western society we often get consumed with work and focus on that climbing that ladder and neglect the things that are more important to us. Making sense? So these things are very critical if we want to have a more fulfilled life. If you want to know how to be unfulfilled and totally mess up your life, would you like to know how to do that? So we go, Jamie, got that part figured out already before I wrote. No, what you would do is this. This is the pattern of people that may achieve but are not fulfilled. And the predominant pattern of human behavior that leads to the most unfulfillment, and it's a pattern you see a lot in America. Tell me, what is the main driving force of people that ultimately end up fulfilled and not happy? They may achieve but not happy. Tell me. Significance. Does it make sense? They're predominantly driven by significance as their primary driver. And when I say in America, the idea of a reality, everyone wants to be famous. So America is obsessed with TV. So much people want to be famous, they don't care if they're on TV for what. They don't care if they're famous for doing anything significant. They'll be happy to be on Jerry Springer. They've made it on TV, then they're still famous. Or be Kim Kardashian, famous for what? Or Paris Hilton, famous for what? Famous just for being famous, of no significant contribution. So it's this TV type world of Hollywood, okay? So people predominantly driven by that, they may achieve, but then they're not fulfilled because they're driven more by significance as opposed to contribution. Where you look at a Mother Teresa, she actually became very significant, but by focusing on contribution. Significance wasn't her driving force, contribution was, and much more fulfilled. And ironically, becomes significant anyhow. So if people want to meet their needs for significance, what is a more fulfilling way in order to do that? Is to focus on contribution. Does that make sense? Because we can all feel special by the difference we make to other people. And making a difference to other people is nothing more than just listening to people, just being present with other people, just caring for other people, just focusing on their needs ahead of your needs, just offering to help and being there for someone. Everyone can feel significant through contribution just by taking the time out to be with other people and caring for other people. Is that true? And out of that process, they will enliven their soul. And because you can't help someone else without some way helping yourself, it comes back. It's just the way the universe works. And by that, they'll get momentum. They'll feel more good about themselves. So there's a powerful psychology reason behind contribution. Because when you contribute, you feel good about yourself. Is that true? If you do something bad by someone, how does it make you feel? You feel bad about it, lowers your energy. Does that make sense? So people that end up in excessive drugs or violence or crime, often they have a very low self-esteem. Is it true? And they're compounding that by doing things they know that is wrong, is not good for other people energetically, and as a result, it's lowering their energy. And then they feel even more unworthy. Making sense? Where the opposite spiral of that is focusing on helping other people in some way. As you contribute for no attached reason, just because that's who you are, it makes you feel better about yourself, gives you momentum, makes you more confident, and you continue to do that. Who's following what I'm saying here? It's very simple, but it's very powerful. So what shift comes in people is simply about, is your life about me or is it about we? Does it make sense? Is your life about being consumed with your own problems, or is your life about, you know what, I'm going to go out there and contribute and just help other people? It's a small shift, but does it have a massive difference in the quality of your life, yes or no? Quality of fulfillment, totally. Now, if you want to be depressed in life, who do you have to focus on? Take a guess. Yourself. Most people who are depressed are focused on themselves. If you want to be happy in life, who do you have to be focused on? If you're not as happy as you like to be, what do you need to do? What do you need to do? Contribute. Look at how you can add value and contribute to others. You don't have to change the world, you just have to make a difference. You like that analogy of the boy that was throwing the starfish back into the ocean? And someone said to him, why? There's thousands of them. Like, what's the point? How can you make a difference? And the boy simply said, picked up another starfish and threw it back into the ocean. Made a difference to that one. Does it make sense? So the point is really focusing and saying how, and now if you build your career, your cornerstone foundation of who you're about, your career, your businesses, and what you do around your purpose and around contribution, are you more likely to be successful, yes or no? Because business is about what? Adding value, but it's about what? It's relationships. And if people know you're sincere and you're coming from a place where you generally want to help them, does that come through? It comes through. It's like a silent communication. You may not reach everyone, or not everyone will see that, but X amount of people will. Because we all want to have relationships with people that have our best interests at heart. The people who want to make a difference. The people that are reliable, that you can count on. Making sense? So if you're coming from that space, then you'll be more successful. You'll also be more happier. Now, as I said yesterday, as my mentor said, Jamie, if you can't be happy being poor, what makes you think you're going to be happy when you're rich? And it's about just being happy because we go internally for those feelings. And as a result of that, we're naturally happier. As a result of that, we naturally have better relationships with ourselves and others, and we naturally become more successful anyhow. And success becomes the byproduct of who we are. Money becomes the byproduct. Not going for the money, not going for the material things, not going for the external things to make us feel good. So when we get that, then we feel good. That's Western epidemic. That's why most people have midlife crises, and that's why they fail in life. Even if some of those people have achieved a lot, and culturally we'll say some of these people are culturally successful. They have a big house, they have the nice cars, they have the high-paid jobs, but they're miserable. Is that success, yes or no? That is total failure. Total failure. What's worse, at least if you don't have a lot of money, you can delude yourself and think, well, when I get lots of money, at least then I'll be happy. But if you get all the money and everything and then you're not happy, you're totally screwed up. Does that make sense? And that happens to people. Happens a lot to rock stars, movie stars, athletes, etc. How many rock stars don't live to 50? They kill themselves. Why? Because their life's been based on what? Significance. They've got that significance, but if they don't feel like they contributed. Now, some of them have contributed, but if they don't feel it. Who was the comedian that killed himself? Joe Belushi or whatever? John Belushi. Now, he contributed and made a lot of people laugh. Made a lot of other people laugh, but he didn't feel that himself. Does it make sense? You know, he got a lot of significance from that, but he did actually contribute, didn't feel that he did. Does it make sense? He could make other people happy, but couldn't make himself happy. And as a result of that, significance, not meeting his needs at a high level, equals pain, 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 pain. What's an escape from this pain? Commit suicide. Okay? Now, that's not a very smart way to escape pain, as we know. Okay? But that's how people make that decision. the way you want to change that, if people, if he could be reframed, someone's going to commit suicide, if they reframe that it's a lot more pain to commit suicide and a lot more pleasure to live, then they will move towards the pleasure, okay? Because we'll do more to avoid pain than gain pleasure. Make sense? Here's what I want you to quickly turn to the person next to you and teach them or share with them how you can meet your 6 human needs at a higher level. Also, I want you to think about what are some small changes or big changes you can make in your life so you can meet these needs at a higher level. Go for it quickly.